Some places just feel different. They've got this certain weight to them, a kind of silence that feels like it's holding stories. And Alaska, it's absolutely one of those places. So today, we're not just telling scary stories. Oh no, we are going to dissect them. We're going to get into the anatomy of fear, Alaskan style.
Just let that sink in for a second. That's a direct quote from a guy who stopped his car on a remote road one night. We'll get to what he saw in a little bit, but his words, they just capture the very essence of why these tales are so uniquely chilling. It's a fear that feels like it's born from the land itself.
So what is it? What makes these encounters so terrifying? Well, it's this. In Alaska, the huge, empty landscape, it's not just a backdrop, it is an active ingredient. It's a character in the story that takes every single kind of fear and just cranks it up to 11.
To really get this, let's start with a number, 1.2. That's it. That is the average number of people per square mile in Alaska. It is the lowest population density of any state in the entire country. And listen, that number isn't just a statistic, it's the foundation for everything, and I mean everything, that follows.
And this brings us to a really crucial point, the huge difference between being alone and being isolated. See, being alone, that can be a choice. You can go for a walk alone. But isolation, that means help is not an option. It means no one can hear you scream, and maybe more importantly, no one is coming. You need to keep that in your head, because it is the bedrock of every story we are about to break down.
So let's start with the most grounded, and maybe the most terrifying fear of all, other people. Because when there are no witnesses around, the monster can look just like anybody else.
Okay, so imagine this. You're on a tiny island in southeast Alaska. There is basically one main road. That's it. You can't just take another route. So a mother and her daughter are driving home, and she admits, yeah, she was driving a little fast, got too close to a pickup truck in front of her. A simple everyday mistake, right? Well, not out here.
What happened next wasn't just road rage. It was a 40-minute ordeal. The truck starts aggressively tailgating them, flashing its lights. The mom, trying to lose him, pulls into a school parking lot. But the truck doesn't leave. It just sits at the entrance, blocking the only way out. For 15 agonizing minutes, it just sits there. Then, it pretends to leave, but it just pulled off the road, killed its lights, and waited. The second they pulled out, the chase was on again. This wasn't anger anymore. This was a hunt.
That kind of relentless pursuit is absolutely horrifying. But isolation means the threat doesn't have to be moving. It can invade the one place you're supposed to feel safest, your own home.
So, a woman is home alone when she sees a stranger just standing outside her cabin, and the details are just bizarre. The woman is wearing orange latex gloves. She has this strange posture, head tilted way back, eyes closed. When the homeowner confronts her, she says she's looking for Val's house and then points right at the house she's standing in front of. It's that sheer unpredictability that's so terrifying. In a city, you'd call the police and they'd be there in minutes. Out here, you are the first and only line of defense.
Okay, let's escalate the fear a little bit. What happens when the threat isn't a person you can see, but the possibility of one you can't? This is the horror of ambiguity. It's when you don't know if you're walking towards a victim or straight into a trap.
Remember that quote from the beginning of all this? This is the scene he was talking about. He's driving on an unlit back road, comes around a corner, and his headlights just land on this red radio flyer wagon. You know the kind, tipped over on its side. And scattered all around it, leading into the pitch-black woods, are children's clothes.
So, I gotta ask you, what do you do? Your mind, it immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario, a hurt child lost in the dark. But another, much older, more primal part of your brain is just screaming that something is deeply, deeply wrong here.
And you can see that internal battle happening right here in his own words. The driver actually got out of his car, gun in hand, but he just couldn't bring himself to step into those woods. His empathy, his decency told him to help, but his survival instinct screamed that it was staged, that someone was waiting just beyond the reach of his headlights. And that is the absolute horror of the unseen trap. It uses your own humanity against you. So we've covered human predators and these unseen traps. But in a place this vast and untamed, the fear can come from something else entirely. From the creatures in the woods, both the ones we know and, well, the ones we really, really don't.
All right, picture this. A group of moose hunters are deep in the wilderness, miles and miles from any trail.
In the dead of night, one of them wakes up because the fabric of his tent is being pushed in, hard, pressing right against his head. He shoves it back, thinking, oh, it's just the wind. It pushes back, but harder.
So what does he do? He punches it. His friends, woken up by all the commotion, rush out to find him bleeding from his hand. And his explanation? Sorry, I'm good. I punched a bear. It's a primal, understandable fear, right? And in Alaska, that's just a thing that can happen.
A bear makes sense. You can identify it, you can react to it, but what do you do when the threat completely defies explanation? Our final story, well, it takes this fear to a whole new level.
A lone hunter is out in the snow, and he sees movement. He thinks it's an animal, so he fires. But what he hears back? It isn't a whimper or a roar. He described it as a deep, sharp scream that sounded like it came from inside the ground itself. And then, the thing he shot stands up, on two legs, and charges right at him.
He fired again, and in that split second, he saw its face. He described something that moved with this unnatural, incredible speed. It had a pale face with colorless eyes, and a mouth just filled with long, thin, needle-like teeth. This was not an animal. This was something else.
So what's the connection? What connects a road-raging driver, an abandoned red wagon, and a creature with needle-like teeth? It's a very specific formula for fear, and it's pretty unique to this landscape.
We've just walked through three totally distinct types of threats, right? You've got the human predator, using isolation to hunt. You've got the unseen trap, using ambiguity as a weapon. And you have the unnatural creature, which is the terror of the unknown made real.
And all of this leads us to a pretty clear definition. Alaskan horror is what happens when you take any of these threats and you multiply it by profound isolation. It's an exponential equation. The fear doesn't just add up, it compounds on itself until it becomes something totally new.
Because when you are truly deeply alone, with no one to call and absolutely nowhere to run, the line between a rational threat, like an angry driver or a bear, and a literal living nightmare, well, that line gets dangerously, perilously thin. Out here, you start to believe that anything is possible.
So, it really just leaves you with one final question to think about. In that profound, silent wilderness, what is the greater threat? The monster you can see, or the one you can't, waiting just